All right, I have 6:30. I can call the meeting to order and start off with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, we will move on to item number 3 on our agenda, consideration and approval of the agenda. I think there's some.
Yeah, I would first like to ask to remove 11.2 from the agenda, just because we are in union negotiations and this is gonna be an item. So I'd like to hold that off till another council meeting. So remove 11.2. I ask that we move the sheriff's update first to above 5.1. And then also we have Greg Burkhardt and Charlie Smith switching places.
Further action, what would you like to make?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Kyle, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Gina, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, next we will move on to public forum. This is an opportunity for citizens to present items to council that are not on the agenda. Each presentation is limited to 3 minutes and a maximum of 15 minutes will be set aside. If your item needs follow-up from the city, staff will arrange time for that. If you'd like to step forward for public forum, please make your way to the podium, state your name and address, and we will hear your concerns. I'll ask again, if anybody would like to step forward and speak for public forum, please make your way to the podium.
Hi. My name is Luke Heggie. My address is 17414 Cross Slade Road, Pine City, Minnesota. And I just have a quick thought that I wanted to share with the city council. As you guys know, I'm on the Pine City Planning Commission. And as someone who represented the city of Pine City, I just want to make sure that we all do our best to try to encourage and support new business as it comes to town. And the reason I'm bringing this up right now, the last planning commission meeting, we had to review the conditional use permit for the Lakeside Field Nursing Home that's currently being used as student housing. Dan had mentioned that he's received a lot of complaints from people about parking and traffic, and pedestrians and problems. So I asked Dan at the meeting if he would share those complaints with us, and he would not do that. I asked the city employees if they've received any complaints, and nobody else has received any. So I just wanted to let the city council know, and anybody else that cares, that hopefully as a city, between the planning city council, we can encourage new business and do our part to help versus hinder future growth here in town. So again, I'm not trying to call out Dan or an issue with him personally, but if we do get complaints, it'd be nice that we can share them with each other and work together to try to solve problems versus create them. Thanks for hearing me out.
Does anybody else that would like to step forward for the forum?
Tony Foster on the planning commission, 1158 Street Southwest. On the agenda tonight, but last couple of planning commission meetings that we had a lot to do with conditional use permits, and when we were talking in the planning commission meeting last week, there was, and I don't know if it's right or not, but then Dan might be right on. But he said that we couldn't do an amendment to the planning commission, right? Or to a conditional use permit.
I said I wasn't sure. I needed to get a legal comment.
Yeah, so we still need to get that, but whether or not we can or can't on that, I just think that moving forward with a lot of these conditional use permits, we should try to figure out a way to help the businesses out. You know, I don't know Fred, I wasn't here when the city passed that. I've never met Fred personally, but I know that he's not making money. He's got 20% occupancy in the building, and we were talking about striping the parking lot, redoing the parking lot, and things like that. I just there's no way that if he's at 10% occupancy, that the bank can get funding. I don't know personally on that. But most banks don't give you money to use money. So I think if there's a way to amend a finding or a community or conditional use permit to give them more time. Same with Newman's build. Some there's one offense. If once something's done, maybe she'll come back to the city and look at, hey, is the project that's built functioning, is it doing what it's supposed to be doing? Maybe we don't need a fence at that, maybe, you know, some of the conditional use permit items that were agreed upon at the beginning. Maybe relook that at that time. It's really what I'm saying.
Thank you, Tom.
My name's Mike Harrison. I live in 655 11th Street Southwest. I have a question regarding the zoning, your ordinances. How many times does somebody have to violate an ordinance before something happens? Is there fines for repeated violations? Because I've called the city 4 times. I've only made 1 official complaint. But the neighbor construction keeps starting his equipment and moving around before the 7 a.m. start time. And I go to work at 4 in the morning, so I'm not home. My wife doesn't have to go to work till 8, so there's really no reason why she should have to be woke up at 6 in the morning by their equipment when it's, you know, starting at 7. You know, maybe I should, when I go to work in the morning, bring a backup alarm and park it in front of his house for an hour. You know, I just don't think somebody should have to be, you know, have to deal with that repeatedly when he's been talked to, but he repeatedly does this. That's not right. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else that would like to step forward for public forum? I'll ask again if anybody else would like to step forward for public forum. I'll ask the third and final time if anybody would like to step forward. Hearing none, we will move on to our sheriff's update.
Hello, Deputy Collins. So past couple months, we've had some issues at the beach, mostly regarding juveniles. A majority of some things have been reported after the fact, so we please ask everybody if something's going on, please call us right away. See anything suspicious, please call us and let us know.
Can you let us know what kind of problems? Because when you say with you,
Yeah.
that could.
Yeah, so there was a bike that was stolen and we didn't know for a while afterwards. There's also been reports of some juveniles getting into some verbal spats kind of over by the gazebos and stuff and pagodas. Sometimes those haven't been called in right away. So if something is happening, I mean, 50, 60 people at the beach, please call it in. Nobody who's there using our parks and everything needs to have to deal with that stuff going on. So please call stuff in as it's happening, especially in public parks, stuff like that.
Can you just elaborate a little bit too of how you find out that, how do you eventually find out?
Normally it's from one of the parties that was involved, but I'll also say, hey, this happened at the beach, like afterwards. And some people are like, oh yeah, I saw them over there, like they were doing whatever, but. So please call stuff in if you see it, or if you think it needs law enforcement attention. It's better to just call it in. I'd rather have us go out there and have it end up being nothing than have it be something and we're not aware of it. So, another piece of information, we had gotten a bit of from our DNR officer regarding e-bikes and stuff like that. We got that last week. I haven't had a chance to quite look at it yet. This is my first day back after a while, so, but it kind of shows the kind of type of e-bike, if it has pedals, like based on the engine type, how fast it goes on a level grade, this kind of stuff, that kind of stuff. Whether you need a license or not, how old you need to be to use it, if it's classified as a motor vehicle or an off-road dirt bike, stuff like that. So we're looking into that to do more enforcement on it.
Yeah, I was driving home from, National Night Out, e-bikes, I'm going the speed limit, they're just by me.
Yeah. And like, I don't know if they're buying them off Amazon or Walmart, I know some of those ones you can buy off Amazon, stuff like that, those things can go pretty quick. And I believe the top level speed has to be 28 miles an hour, 28 miles an hour or less. And to be a bicycle.
And set of pedals.
Yeah, it has to have pedals and it has to follow all the other regulations of like, you know, a light on the front, a reflector in the rear, that kind of stuff. So we're looking into that to do more enforcement on that, especially with some people, because I believe by state statute, you have to be 15 to operate one.
Dirt bikes too,
Yeah.
those are the ones that are.
And I have seen some e-bikes around that are parked that have fenders and fairings to resemble the dirt bike. And at first I thought it was, and then you go up and it's an e-bike. So it's, but
Nice to get this information out in our local.
Just say, could we make a post or do something collaborative between the city and the sheriff's department and kind of promote what's legal, what's not legal? And
like I said, I have, I can send you the flow chart and everything from the DNR.
Did you say helmets are required for e-bike? Required,
15 and older.
15.
but helmets,
Helmets 15 and older. Same thing with ATVs and
What,
I mean-
so if you're younger, you don't have to?
well, I think
You're-
you're,
no
If you're under the age of 15, you can't.
under 15, you can't drive.
so basically, yes, you need a helmet.
Yeah.
If you, okay,
I believe until the age of 18.
oh, till
18 till 18.
15, 18.
okay, I understand now, thank
So
you.
there's a lot of nuances to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuances. Like I said, I got the flow chart. I kind of very briefly looked at it this past weekend when I was at home and did a little brief reading on it. That's pretty much the big ones that I picked up. You need to be 15 and has to have all the stuff. And be, 28 miles an hour, 29 miles an hour over going, on a level plane at less than 1 degree or something.
So what's your take on these 5 horsepower Colemans that they buy at Walmart that can hold a couple kids with no shoes and no helmets flying around the street, mostly on the southwest part of Pine City, along with pit bikes. There's a couple of those that fly around my neighborhood, 10th and 11th and 9th.
So pit bikes need to be registered.
Okay, all these times.
They need to be, they need to have a public use registration, they need to have turn signals and all that stuff. Stuff like that.
Well, I can tell you the address where they're coming from. I mean, and now do you have the contract for the city now? Okay. Because the last deputy, I told him and he said he didn't, he was gonna look into it and that was about as far as it went. But I've watched these guys go through the intersection on 7th Avenue and 10th Street and cars just miss them flying through. They're not even looking when they go through that yield sign. And we're gonna have a kid schmuck just like they did down in St. Paul if we don't do something about it. So we need to concentrate on these things and stop before somebody gets killed. That's what's.
So you're talking like little like Honda 50cc.
Yeah, them little pit bikes. I don't know what kind of motor they got on them, but they sure make a lot of noise.
There's a little kiddo around my neighborhood it looks like, I would say it looks like a small dirt bike, but he's definitely not 15.
Yeah.
I don't want me to call anybody out. I just want to cover that everybody's safe.
I know you're in your right of discovery still too, but a lot of the stuff is enforceable by state law. Is there anything that as a council we may want to consider ordinance wise for city specific or?
You can, I would look at it, I would say definitely like a helmet ordinance, just to double down on that one. And then, if you want to make sure like they have to ride like on the roadway or on the shoulder instead of, because I have seen some of them on sidewalks. Stuff like that. So if you want to keep them off the sidewalk, city ordinance, it's like on the roadway. If you, city ordinance, you have to walk across the crosswalk. You can't like ride across the crosswalk. So you want to do something like that. Just so they're not cutting into traffic. So much so on crosswalks and stuff, they look, they don't, they don't see a car, and just, in the crosswalk at 10 feet. Something like that. We've also gotten reports of some motorcycles, like actual motorcycles, flipping along at pretty good speed up near Fifth Avenue Northeast. So, probably in that area more, the speed work up there. Trying to keep people going the speed limit, not going as fast, especially kind of in the later hours when it's reported between 6 and 9. Especially with it getting dark sooner, people out walking around, walking their dogs, stuff like that. Don't want anybody getting by motorcycles or cars. Pretty much all I have.
Do you deal with noise complaints for ordinance?
I haven't personally gotten one, but
But that might be an option for 6 AM, since I'm not sure if all our employees come in at 6 AM. Maybe swing by there and see if they're making a ruckus at that time.
I can have my day, guy swing by. I leave it 2 in the morning, but I can have one of the day or the night guys, as they're swapping over, to kind of swing through and make sure everything's not being too noisy at 6 AM. So,
I'm curious too, there was, for a minute there, we were having, I wouldn't call it significant, but a pretty large uptick in shoplifting locally. Have you been continuing to get calls for that, or kind of seen that taper off a little bit?
I've seen it taper off. We did have one big shoplifting from Walmart. That's where most of our shoplifting calls come from. I've only gotten like 1 or 2 in the past month and a half, maybe. And one of them was just one of them that they had reported several times, that like 12 times. And they gave it to me all at once. So I don't know if that may have skewed numbers or not, because that was between like May and like the end of June. That it was like a little different incidents. So I don't know if that has not, I don't know if that got reported that way or not. I haven't really seen an uptick in, it's kind of been tapering out. So, really, honestly, I won't have. I think in the last. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else?
Maybe one more thing.
Yes, is there anything?
And this is more on the administrative side, but I know we pay for X number of hours throughout the entire year. Report of how many hours the in-town deputy yourself or the other people on the contract actually spent in town during those hours, or hours spent out of town during those hours.
Okay. Yeah, I can email either Jeff or Scotty and see if they can pull up something like that. I try to get in touch as much as I can.
Sure.
I normally get down here at like anywhere between 2 and 2:10, and I don't leave until probably 2 anyway. So, if I do go out of town, it's to go help another deputy. So,
I'm just curious.
yeah, no, so, yeah, like I said, I'm around as much as I can be. So, but yeah, I can email Jeff or Scotty and they can kind of track where we're at what times and kind of get an hour count on where everything is. So, perfect.
Thank you.
And anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for being here.
Yep.
All right. Next, we will move on to 5.2, auto presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. We've already been introduced, but I'll say my name for the record. I'm Greg Burkhart, and I represent the firm that performed the financial audit for the city of Pine City over your transactions and balances at the end of last year. Tonight is a culmination of the work that we performed. So what I'd like to do is walk the council through the audit process, provide a little bit of clarity, maybe shine a light on what an audit entails. We'll discuss some of the responsibilities that are held in financial reporting. We'll touch on a few of the results for the audit this year. There's some things that professional standards require that communicate to governance. We'll look at those as well. Then I'll finalize this presentation with a brief overview of the financial conditions. Going through any information, please don't hesitate to stop me, and I'm very happy to answer any questions as they may come up. All right, so let's get started on the very first slide. Second slide, there you go. All right, so you guys have printouts in front of you. That's going to be bottom of page 1. What you see in front of you here describes the responsibilities that are held with financial report. Okay, so starting on the left-hand side, represent management's responsibilities. Really, that's Marcy and her team. They have 3 primary responsibilities and report. The first is to make all the accounting decisions. And there are several accounting decisions that are necessary annually in order to put those financial statements into a good condition. The other responsibility they hold relates to internal controls. All right. Real generically, your internal controls are just simply your policies and procedures that the city has in place that will protect your assets. Right? So whether that be your cash in the bank, savings accounts, investments, it does also include equipment, so vehicles, infrastructure, things of that nature. You need to have properly designed procedures in order to ensure that those are safeguarded. And that safeguarding also includes your financial records. Ensure that there are no errors. And if there are errors in your financial records, that those are and corrected in a timely manner. Okay. The side describes your audit firm's responsibilities. Right, so our responsibilities really revolve around the 3 separate reports that we provide over those financial statements. Okay, so we provide a financial opinion. Right, so we look at the numbers and we try to determine, are they appropriate? Are they accurate? We follow standards that are described as GAGAS, it's generally accepted government auditing standards. Sometimes you will hear that referred to as a yellow book. We also provide a report on your internal controls. So we look at the city's policies and procedures. We evaluate the facts and circumstances that the city finds itself in throughout the year and try to determine, are the appropriate policies in place? Do we find something that's missing, or is there something in place that isn't operating the way that it was intended? We see that, we report on it, and we provide some recommendations for improvement. And then finally, we look at and evaluate the city's compliance with Minnesota law. Okay, the state auditor requires every government in Minnesota to be evaluated against 7 broad categories of compliance. We actually spend an awful lot of time during the conduct of the audit evaluating that compliance. So if we come across something that indicates the city didn't follow certain rules or laws, we report on it and provide recommendations for improvement as well. On to the next slide, please. Slide number 3, top of page 2. This is a brief summary of the results for the audit this year. Starting from left to right, under financial opinion, you can see it states that we have issued the city an unmodified audit opinion. So that's your clean audit report, if you will. So what that says is that your financial statements fairly represent the balances at the end of last year, as well as the transactions that happened during 2024. Those are numbers that you can rely upon to make decisions regarding the financials. The middle section of slide 3 describes our report on your internal controls. Okay, so we did note one area of your internal controls that could be improved upon. What we have there is described as material audit adjustments. Okay. And what this means in a nutshell is that we had to record certain adjustments to your financial records. And some of those adjustments exceeded dollar amount thresholds that auditors place in every audit. And because it exceeded that, had we not made that adjustment, we would not have been able to receive a clean audit. So of course, we did post those adjustments and the city approved our adjustments and have posted those to their records. So your records do match the audit report. However, that is described as a limitation. I will say that the journal entries that we did record this year were much less than what we had done in the past. So there was certainly some improvements there, and I can see, anticipate the future continued improvement regarding some of the changes that were necessary. And then finally, on the right-hand side, under compliance findings, unfortunately this year we did note one instance of non-compliance. And this one's a very easy one to correct. So we have it described as improper acceptance of donations. So state law requires that every gift, grant, whether it's real property or cash, accepted by a 3/4 majority of the council. And during our procedures, we noted at least one instance where a donation was collected and there was not a resolution that was passed accepting it. Okay, so our recommendation there is just ensure every month if you receive any type of donation, get that passed by a resolution. This is a very easy one to correct, and I don't anticipate seeing a reoccurrence of this one either. Okay, on to the next slide, slide number 4. What you see here on slide number 4, bottom of page 2, describes what I've already alluded to. Professional standards required by community events. I'm not going to go over any of these items in any great detail tonight due to the time that I have allotted. But I would encourage the council to read a report that we also provide that accompanies the audit. It's called a management. That management letter will provide much greater detail than what I'm able to describe this evening. It does also include some recommendations that we have issued the city, either take advantage of certain conditions that are there or correct things that may improve your efficiency or your operation. I do want to point out one thing, at least on this slide, however, very bottom section there under audit difficulties. It's kind of a nightmare discuss, but we're required to talk about any problems that we ran into or difficult interactions with management. Well, I'm thrilled to say we found management to be very cooperative, very helpful. They had the records in great shape. Marcy and her team, especially Nicole, was well prepared for us when we came up here to begin our field work. So we're very thankful for that, and that absolutely made sure that our audit procedures were much more efficient and effective. So I want to thank them both for that. Okay, on to the next page, slide number 5. So from here forward, what I'd like to do is talk about the financial condition of the city. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to step back in time a little bit. We're going to look at where was the city a few years ago. We're going to take a look at where you are today, and hopefully that'll give us some clues on where are you trending, where will the city be in the near future to help allow you guys to make some good financial decisions. Okay. So if we can go to the next slide, please, slide number 6, bottom of page 3. What you see represented in this slide is a representation of the city's cash and investment balances. And we have 5 years listed, starting in 2020, all the way through to the end of last year. Okay. Your governmental activities. You hear me say that, I want you to think general fund. That does include your debt service, it includes your project funds, all those are activities. Those are represented by your blue bars. Okay. Your business type activities, water, sewer, and your municipal liquor store are represented by the orange bars. So as I look at the chart at the top of this page, or slide number 6, I see a lot of variance there. So if we just focus in on the blue bars, you can see from 2020 all the way down to 2022, there were some significant decreases in your overall cash and investment balances. It kind of bottomed out there from 22 to 23 and then has rebounded nicely at the end of last year. Some of the reason there had to do with some projects that the city undertook that you did not secure the financing that you had anticipated during that project period. The increase that you saw from 23 into 24, that blue bar, approximately $1.8 million increase, which is fabulous. But there's a little nuance involved there. There is some unspent bond money for your 2024 street project. So that certainly is contributing approximately $1 million of the increase that you saw from the last year to the end of this year. Okay. If we focus in on those orange bars, again, those business type of water, sewer, and liquor store, you can see somewhat of a different trend. Those utility funds were marching along really well. 2021, 22, seeing some very steady increases, and then quite a step drop there in 23. The reasoning there had to do with, if you guys recall my audit report last year, there was an interfund loan made to cover some of the shortfalls that were present in a few of those projects. Again, that didn't have the right funding needs. However, those utility funds have stabilized and actually had a very healthy increase, approximately $200,000 from 22 to 23. Table at the bottom of slide 6 is a representation of the city's reserves. So All right, so what we've done here is we've taken your year-end cash and investment balances and we've divided them by your average annual expenses. We multiply that by 365. So what that does is it takes your year-end balances and it converts them into how many days can the city operate under average conditions. I'm sure everyone here in this room knows that there isn't much average about government. Your expenditures go up and down significantly throughout the year, month to month, year to year. But that's why you want to anticipate a certain reserve level, right? So if we look at that table, and let's maybe just focus in on the very right-hand column, the one that represents 2024. Your governmental activities ended the year with 314 days of reserves. That's approximately 10 months worth of cash reserves under average conditions. Your business type activities are doing much better. 860 days worth of cash reserves, right? That is approximately 28 days, or excuse me, 28 months worth of reserves. Those business type activities far exceed a lot of the other utility funds that we see in the neighboring communities. And your business type activities are very well funded. Excellent reserve.
Do you have a recommendation of where we should cover? Is that something that you don't technically get into or?
Well, I can tell you this, Mr. Mayor, I can tell you what we typically see. You know, so those utility funds and business type activities are doing wonderful. We normally see anywhere between 12 and 15 months worth of reserves. You know, and it's difficult to compare one city to the next because, you know, you may have been hit with a lot of infrastructure improvements recently, or another city may not have, which you're carrying a little bit more, right? Your governmental activities, in my estimation, are a little bit low. I would like to see those in that 12 to 15 month range. Okay, so I don't think you're too far off. And the numbers that we are reporting here, that 314 days, does include some of that unspent bond proceeds. So they are skewed a little. So if we were to remove that piece of it, your reserve would be around 8.5 months. You know, so I would say 12 to 15 is really an ideal area. And we'll talk a little bit more about reserves and how to evaluate those as we get into the next few slides. Should give you some very good clarity on that. So if we can move to the next page, please. Slide number 10 actually dovetails nicely into this slide. So what you see here on slide number 7 presents your components of fund balance for your general fund. All right, so when you hear me say fund balance, what I want you to think is net worth. That's what that represents. And we could think about fund balance as cash balance. You know, there's some parallels there, but there's an awful lot more that goes into a fund balance than just sold cash. But it is a representation of your net worth. And audit firms, other people that use your financial statements, bond rating agencies, bond holders, they look at that general fund and they do so for very important reasons. The general fund is a great indicator to the financial health of the city. And typically it's where most of your reserves reside. Okay, so as you evaluate your general fund, it gives those clues in how healthy are you. So as we look at the chart at the top of slide 7, you know, it's very clear the trends that are happening. Okay, and it kind of dovetails what we saw in the cash and investment slide as well. 2020, 21, things were looking good. 22, 3 and 4, there has been some downward trend to your overall net worth for the general fund. Okay, there's several reasons for that. There were some budget overages in the past. There was covering some of those deficits in the projects that didn't have the right financing. Where you stand today, or rather the end of last year, if we look at the far right-hand side, that column that represents 24, $912,000, that green bar. Okay, that's your available fund balance. That's what you have available to you to appropriate. That number is something that audit firms look at, state auditor looks at. They look at that number and they evaluate it against your annual budget. Okay. And they have some recommendations. I have recommendations. The state auditor does as well. The city actually has a policy. The city policy states that you should strive to maintain 31% of next year's budget in your fund balance. Okay. The table at the bottom of slide 7 describes
that percentage, that very first row, it says fund balance percentage. Okay, as you go from 2020 all the way through to the end of 24, you can see at the end of 24, that number was 33%. So you're right at the limit of what your city policy is. I would argue that's a little bit low, and so would the state auditor. State auditor recommends between 40 and 50% of next year's budget in that fund balance. There's really good reasons for that. It's solely because the bulk of the money you receive, annually comes in two tranches. It's your property taxes in May, June, then again in December. So really, you got to operate, almost half the year on what you have available. So if your fund balance was at the limit that the state auditor wants, that very next row there, that 1.371 million, that's what you should be. So you're approximately about 400,000 below what that state recommends. Again, these are numbers that they're generic to all cities in Minnesota. So don't take that for gospel, but that's kind of their overall general recommendation. The general fund, I believe, is in good shape. There were some conditions that caused the decrease from 23 to 24. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. We move over to the next slide, please. Slide number 8. This is a continuation of discussion on that general fund. And what we see here on this slide is your budget and actual statement. This is your profit and loss. Okay. So if we start at the very top row, blue highlighted section, your revenues. That is the money the city brought in. Okay, so you can see your budget, see actual, that center column, and your variance against that budget. You were over budget on your revenues of like $311,000. So if you're going to go over budget, it's definitely where you want to do it. The big reason for that bridge primarily related to building permits this year. Building permits were approximately 220,000 over what you had budgeted initially. Okay, and that's always a moving target. That's hard to pin down when you're putting those budgets together. So that's understandable. The next section below that, starting with that orange highlighted area, those are your expenditures. That's how the city spent the money they received. Okay, so let's go down to the row that represents total expenditures. You can see your budget, approximately 2.7 million. Your actual, right around 2.7 million, you were over budget by $7,500. That's facts. That is really, really good. If you do a little bit of math on that, that's about 0.3%. I already had it calculated for you. Yeah, that's 0.3%. That's not common. And I think this is exactly why our firm has no concern about that general fund. This is not something, if you look back at last year's audit report, the 22 audit report, much different picture. There were significant over budgets happening those years. Keeping yourselves on budget, on target is not something that happens by accident. This is a concerted effort by everybody in the city, the council included, to come in that close is wonderful. So that I think is going to provide some significant help to the city moving forward. It's going to help bring those fund balances maybe up into a level that you're more comfortable with. We look at the bottom line for the general fund. So go down to that green highlighted section, center column, that middle column. You see a number in parentheses, $258,000. It's in parentheses. So that represents a decrease in your fund balance. We can call it a loss. We don't say that in government terms, but that's what that is. Majority of that loss had to do with transfers that were provided to help offset deficits in your project fund. So if we go 2 rows above that, you see that line there, those transfers. So had the city not had to move money out to cover some of those overages, that general fund would have saw a very healthy increase. You would have been looking at an increase in your fund balance of about 300,000. And with that, you darn near be where state auditor would expect you. So as long as you can hold those budgets next year, have similar results, I think that the fund balance and that general fund will turn out very good. Okay, let's move on to the next phase, slide number 9. This is the last slide with any numbers on it, I promise. We're almost done here. So what you see in front of you on slide number 9 is an analysis of your business type activities. Actually, on this slide, we call them enterprise funds. Okay? And we use those terms, we don't use them interchangeably to confuse anyone. We use them for very specific reasons. Those funds, that water, sewer, and liquor, are meant to be operated by like a business. Okay, you're supposed to be honest, you're supposed to stand alone. You know, and like all good businesses, you're not gonna be around for very long if you can't generate profits. Okay, but I would argue solely evaluating the results of those activities based on profits is a little misleading, right? There's another way to do that, and it may be a simpler way as well. So what we have here is cash flows. Okay, there's a lot of entries that accountants and auditors make that will change your profit and loss, have no impact on what you have in the bank. You don't pay your bills with profit, you pay with cash. So it's important to evaluate how well is your cash performing? How well are you generating cash to pay your bills? That's what this slide attempts to answer. So we start at the very top row, that blue highlighted section, cash provided by operating activities. Okay. Briefly define that. Cash provided by operating is really the reason that those funds are in existence. Water fund is there to provide water to your customers. And in order to do that, you have a lot of costs. You gotta pay salaries, you gotta pay electrical bills, you gotta pay chemicals, you gotta do all these different things. And because of that, you charge a certain rate to your customers. Okay, so your customers, they provide you, they pay their bill that you send out to them. You use that money to pay all your bills. And whatever's left after doing that is what we call cash flow by operations. So if we look at all three utility funds, you have very healthy cash flow, especially that water fund. All right. However, that cash is used in many different ways. So the next 6 lines below that blue highlighted section are all the other things that are happening in your cash balances that will not show up on a profit and loss statement. Okay. One of the biggest is your debt service payment. Okay. So 4 rows in, your debt service payments, look what the water fund has to pay annually for repaying debt for previous work that has been done to improve the infrastructure, $614,000 annually. The sewer fund has a fairly significant debt load as well, not as much as the water, $117,000. Okay. And that's why you anticipate, that's why you forecast after you generate to be able to pay those bills. The overall increase or decrease in cash is about the middle of that page. You can see that the water fund ended the year, cash balance is up 233,000. Your sewer fund dipped down slightly to 65,000. And the liquid fund increased their cash balance by 41,000. So if we evaluate that from your increase or decrease in cash versus your profit loss, the water fund had profit of 700,000. It only increased cash 233. Fund had profit of 190,000, but the cash balance actually went down. Okay, so that's why I think it's important to look at both sides of that coin, evaluate profit loss, of course, but also let's manage our cash balances, make sure we have adequate resources to do what we need to do. Very next row there, we do show your end cash and investment for each of those activities. Every one of those utility funds, liquor store included, are well financed. They have adequate reserves. I see absolutely no concern. Utility rates, the amount of reserves that you hold there, very, very healthy. So very good with what we're seeing there. And then I have also listed on this slide some historical increases and decreases in cash over the previous 5 years. Okay, so the bottom line, those utility funds are stacking up very nicely. You're in a really good position, well positioned for the future, if and when additional infrastructure needs to be put in place. The resources to do that. On to slide number 10. Yes, I did lie. There are some numbers on this slide, but this is your audit team for the year. Myself, Greg Burkhardt. I lead the audit effort. The 3 other smiling faces you see listed on that slide pretty much do all the work. I get to come here and take all the credit. Far from the truth, but maybe just a little bit. But I do enjoy what I'm doing. I don't know if it comes through in my presentation style. I like speaking to councils. I like talking numbers, things that can be very difficult. You guys have a very, very challenging job and position. The finances being just one small part. If I can assist you all in that capacity, provide guidance to you, I'm very happy to do so. My phone number and email address are listed there. Please reach out. I'm in touch with Marcy and Nicole throughout the year. I want to extend that opportunity and option to the council as well. As a matter of fact, anyone on the audit team would be very happy to answer any questions as it comes up. Okay, and that's everything that I wanted to discuss for the council. So,
You've made it very easy to follow and very. Well, even I understood.
you're welcome. That's always. That's what I attempt to do, so
Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question if I can ask before you leave. This might be a little bit of an abstract question, but, and say we ended up with a large surplus of funds in our general fund at the end of the year. Advantageous of us to pay down some of our bonds with that surplus, or would you recommend leaving that sit in the general fund, kind of just keep on?
That's a great question, Mr. Mayor. I think it really boils down to, we have to look at the level of fund balance you have. So you guys are well financed, you're at your city policy, and then evaluate the debt that you would anticipate paying off. So if you have a bond outstanding that carries a fairly high interest rate, let's say 6 or 7%, if you could pay that off and realize those interest earnings over a certain period of time, rather than your cash sitting idle in the general fund gaining 1 or 2%, then you're better off at the end of that term to pay off that debt. And there are opportunities as well. I did discuss this. It is in our management letter, discussing some debt. Your debt service funds, there's a few of them that actually have more than enough money available currently that could pay off some of the debt that they're restricted to, or the resources are available to do that. And I think that's a no-brainer. That one right there absolutely makes a lot of sense. Retire that debt early, realize the interest savings that you have. If you have excess money in that general fund, I think that decision boils down to basically what I asked. How much is that debt? What's the rate on that debt versus what you're able to receive from your banking institution as far as the interest rates that we're providing.
Isn't that almost what we did, even though we didn't plan to do that when we did bond for our project? I mean,
Wow.
that's what we did, but
Yeah, and really, if you think about it, what you ended up doing is you internally finance.
yes.
Rather than paying a bond company to issue that bond for you and then paying the bondholders interest over 20 or 30 years, you said, hey, we got enough money, let's handle this ourselves.
It's not. I said the silver nickel, I'm like, did you just calculate how much we saved, because that will make me feel better about it.
Significant, really. I mean, it really would have been
And
significant.
again, 1.7 million. 1.7 million.
So
Well done.
yeah,
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
thank you very
You
much.
guys have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. I just want to say, Marcy, Nicole, staff, thank you so much. It's really nice to have this where it's at from where it was and where we're going. So I know it's been a ton of work. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, next we will move on to item with Triumph Aerodots.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors. Thank you for having me this evening. It's an honor to come and speak in front of you today. And today, I'm going to give you a 30,000-foot view of what's going to occur during the study. A lot of the items that that we have listed here have already occurred or are in process, and you're part of meeting with you as part of the listening session. And to get your feedback, probably a little bit limited tonight based on your time constraints, but there will be other opportunities over the next few months to get your input on the study, on the fire district, and how you see things and how you'd like to see things in the future. Next slide, please. All right, just a quick agenda. I'll introduce myself. Next slide will be that. We're going to go over the goal and objective of the study, the meeting objectives, the committee roles and responsibilities, and the committee is a fire study committee, the communication plan, community and stakeholder engagement, and how that's going to occur. Month 1 and 2 deliverables, which we're approaching the end of month 2 already, and the general project timeline. And so for me, I started this. Yep, you were on the right side. Yep. I started this company in 22. I'm the only person, the CEO of our corporation. I've 33 years in the fire service, and the majority of that is career, so full-time fire service. I do have quite a bit of volunteer service as well. As far as education, I have an MBA, and in the fire, pretty much served in every role or rank that there is in the fire service: firefighter, operator, deputy chief, fire chief, battalion chief. So pretty much every single role I have served in. And part of my experience is leading Spring Lake Park Plain Mounds View, if you've heard of that fire district. So that is kind of a unique fire district here in Minnesota, covers those three cities, and Circle Pines and Centerville are actually becoming part of that district under a fee for service contract. So that total fire district serves close to 100,000 people, 100,000 permanent residents right now. I was chief there for 6 years, which really gave me a really good insight into fire district leadership and all the moving parts that occur within a system such as yours, where there are many townships and cities, boards, things like that, that are involved in running this site district. Understanding the sensitivities that each community has its own needs when it comes to trying to build that into the study and the results to get that. I'm also a veteran, served in the Minnesota National Guard for close to 23 years. Retired, makes me sound old, but I think I retired like 12 years ago or 13 years ago. So it was a long time ago. So I do have the military side. The military side, it was military police and airfield fire protection. So I didn't retire. There's an assistant fire chief and airfield fire, which is a whole nother ballgame on the fire service side of things, dealing with aircraft and all that stuff. One of the big parts of what we do and how we operate is to really focus on the human capital that exists within the relationships, not only in the fire district, but between myself and you and other government entities, and just understanding that people drive what we do. So each one of us comes together in a team to make everything happen, especially you in a governmental side. You're responsible for so many things for your community, the safety of your community, the health of your community. But for instance, the fire department's just not a machine. It's full of people that make boots on the ground, for lack of a better term, that really provide that service to our community and our citizens. So we want to really focus on human capital, which we will, to get the points of view and needs and perception into the end of this study. We won't be able to include everything, but that'll help build context and get a really good depth of information to over the next 8 months on what it's going to look like for a final report. And then a little bit of my experience, probably the first, I started out as a firefighter in 1988, not quite as far back as you there, Councilor Hill. So pretty close though, pretty close. In understanding that it really is different than the job is the same. What you have to do is the same as a career fire department, but volunteer is a whole different motivation, or paid on call or whatever model they would say. So Spring Lake Park Plain Mounds View, that fire department was a combination department, had a small contingent of career firefighters and a large contingent of volunteers. So the ability to manage that is a talent. It's different today than it ever has been. Recruiting, retention, making sure your firefighters have what they need. So coming into this project with that understanding is a strength for our company. Next slide. The goal or the objective of the study is a comprehensive department study, improve shared fire services among all the contracting partners to include formation of a joint services fire district. So really take a hard look at a bunch of different options. So I'm not making any decisions as your consultant, but I will provide information and options for you to consider decisions that you will make down the road in regard to fire services. And when I say fire service, I had a question. It's not just fire services; it's the entire product and delivery that fire departments deliver around the country, which can include and will include emergency medical services, hazardous materials, technical rescue, extrication. We all do so much more than just firefighting within our communities. Public relations, so all of those things, which are very important pieces of the entire puzzle that is fire service. The goal of our study is to evaluate what we have going on today here against options to enhance the shared service relationship between all of the entities who currently contract with the City of Pine City for fire and private services. So we're going to evaluate all of that. A lot of information, your scope of services for the RFP is pretty large. So this is a lot of information and a big task over the next 10 months. to make this all come together. Definitely doable, but it is a significant scope of services that we're providing at the end to give you a better evaluation process so you can really dig in and get some objectivity when it comes to information from the outside on fire services. Best practices, national standards, things that have worked for other departments in similar situations to make this go smooth. Because in the end, all of us here exist for our citizens to make sure that they have the best service they get, especially EMS and law enforcement as soon as they need it, which if anybody's ever dialed 911 and needed any kind of emergency services, 30 seconds is too long. And when you're counting down the minutes, it really does make a difference. So really seconds is life when it comes to the job that your firefighters and your police officers and sheriff deputies and things like that. Next slide. So tonight, what just meeting objective we have is build relationships with you, your key stakeholders. So see my face, introduce myself. You'll have my contact information, and you can feel free to contact me at any time. Set expectations for participation, communication deliverables. What does that look like for all of us? Feedback collection via SWOT analysis, which you will be receiving. I'll work with Marcy on getting that out to you. But we're going to do a SWOT analysis of the fire department to get really solid feedback from all of you. And this is not just the council here, but all the other governmental entities, fire chiefs, city administrators, firefighters, everybody that's involved in this relationship to really, because there's only so much information that we can share in a meeting like this, and to be able to get your own unique perspective on what are the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities, threats that occur within providing service to your fire district. So after this meeting, I'll work with Marcy, get that out tomorrow or the next day, so that'll come directly to you. If you have any questions on that, you can certainly ask me. You can certainly go to Marcy. Works best that way. And then establish a culture of transparency and respect. Firefighters are passionate. Communities are passionate about their fire department. And there might be some difficult discussions that are going to occur about providing service. So one of the main things is to make sure that we are respectful in our communication for everybody involved in this, but also transparency. Your audit that you just had delivered is a huge piece of transparency on the governmental side of things, which is congratulations on a good, successful audit. That's always a little nerve wracking. I think it's, as a fire chief, I always hated that time. And you probably were nervous coming up to it. I don't know. You're an expert in the financial side of things, but always made me nervous. Yeah. So just, that transparency part, you hear that a lot when it comes to government, right? You have to be transparent with our tax funds that they're given us every single year to provide the services we do. Next slide, please. The Fire Study Committee. So I want to talk a little bit about communication flow and what should work best in this model and during this study. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of different entities within this. You have a representative on the Fire Study Committee, a fantastic representative, by the way, on the Fire Study Committee. So great depth of knowledge in the fire service. So the majority of my contact as your consultant is going to be with that group, Fire Study Committee. So there will be discussions there. Of course, they are not decision makers, and what I'm encouraging is that every representative, because we have representatives from every township and community there, is that when we give information out to them, or when I give information out to them, that they send it out to you. So that's going to be the direct line of communication. They'll be there to provide that for you. And then anything that needs to be firmed up or clarified, that could certainly be something that could come meet with council again, maybe a workshop or something like that, as we move on to really clarify things or answer the questions that you might have that get a little bit deeper. So a lot of fire districts that you see, the Fire Study Committee would function almost like a board of directors or a fire board, and that group would be one that would be making fiscal decisions for the fire district. And then they bring that to each other governmental body for budget time. So theoretically, it would be that board would come up with a budget for, let's say, for 2026, and then that would go to the city administrator for inclusion in her budget that she presents to you. That's normally how those functions, and it depends on the Constitution and how they're made, but that's normally how it goes. And when we talk about span of control, for me to try and communicate with every single council member and township supervisor would be difficult. And then it will also help me maintain that transparency of communication, so it doesn't look like I'm communicating in some dark room with somebody else and getting information that isn't. So, just making sure that we do that. So, and again, respectful environment where all ideas are considered. People get really passionate about the fire service and what they provide, and communities can be protective of their fire department, especially in a situation where you have your fire department serving other communities. So that'll be just part of it. And I don't see any issues with that, but it's just kind of nice to lay that expectation out that we're going to get that. So, all right. So our communication plan, real basic, providing regular updates, monthly updates. I just had my first update to the fire study committee a few days ago. And that's the plan, is to do it monthly, just to say where we're at in the study, the things that we've accomplished, things that we're going to be working on for the next month, and any other important piece of information that might occur during that time. Certainly could be more frequently if somebody wants to call me or email, say, hey, what's up with this part or what's going on here? Absolutely. Give me a call, email me. Email for me is the best way to contact me. I usually get a quick reply. Phone's a little bit less, might be a day behind. Texting too is an option. But also with how do you like communication? And like we said before, most of the communication is going to come through the representative on the committee, but everybody likes different types of communication, different styles of communication. So it's important that I know that. Probably most of it, just to follow protocol, will probably be through Marcy, because she's city administrator, unless it's direct for some reason, but just general flow of communication would be there through Counselor Hill or Marcy. But if you need to get a hold of me, certainly email, texting is really quick. So I work with people that are not emailers, and like I'll email them critical things in the past that they didn't have any action done on them until I called a few hours later after everything was kind of down the road. And then that person came back and said, man, you shouldn't email me because I have 3,000 unread emails in my inbox or something like that. So, okay, good enough. I know that should have been set up, on my part prior to how do you like to communicate? What's the best thing for you? So that's what we're establishing here. So. And then access to documents and transmission, another part of that transparency. As this moves on, I start collecting data and start putting together draft documents, or there's other documents that come in. In the interest of transparency, I'll be setting that up on a Google Drive to set a link so everyone can view that at their leisure. So, if you're involved in this process as a decision maker, you'll have access to that. So it doesn't feel like or seem like anything's being hid or transparent. So it's a big part of that. So how am I doing on time? Good. Respect all that. So how are we engaging the community and the stakeholders? So we're doing group meetings like we are right now, the councils, the boards, the township boards, firefighters. Those are going to be the big groups that we are going to meet with as far as group meetings, individual meetings. We'll be meeting with committee members. We started that already. We'll be meeting with the fire chief. We get the fire chief next week. I'll spend a lot of time with Chief Miller discussing the current state of the fire department, what it looks like for the future, and just get that all-encompassing view of where it is, where it's going, and thoughts on what the needs are currently and in the future. City administrators, I already met with Marcy last week, or the week before. Has it been 2 weeks already?
I think it's almost 3 weeks now.
Okay. That's right.
This is prior to the township meeting. So.
Yeah, that's right. So we already met. She already sent me fire department budget numbers, the audit results, things like that. I'll start analyzing those and put those in some context and go from there. So, and there'll be other meetings that will pop up that I didn't anticipate as I talk to people. There'll be people will be, whether the counselors or board members from wherever, they'll be like, hey, you should really talk to this person. This person, like one after conversations here the next few days. Who's your internet provider? Essentia. Yeah, I kept thinking of line for some reason. So meeting with Essentia to just discuss how that all works within the county and how that flows. I think is an important part of the emergency service, overall emergency services here. So that'll be one of the meetings that initially I didn't have on my list, but that will be developed as time goes on. The SWOT analysis, which you will get, and I'll coordinate with Marcy on that one. Just be 4 questions. That's a deeper dive into different aspects of the organization. So however deep you want to get into that is up to you. No firm date on the due date, but I'll discuss on that. We just had that discussion today on an end date for that. And then any concerns, but a big part of this meeting is any early concerns that you might have with this process or that. And there'll be time for questions at the end if you have any. Excellent. So where are we at for deliverables? And we've already had our initial planning meeting with the fire study committee. Already started stakeholder engagement 2 to 3 weeks ago. We just talked about our communications plan, the SWOT tools developed, and it's already been, as I meet the groups, it goes out to each group as we develop that. And what I'll do with that, when we get all that information, it's gonna be a lot of information, or should be, from all the entities, is we'll analyze that, and there'll be common themes that we'll develop out of all that information, concerns and all of that, and that will all be put into that analysis. That'll really help chart it. And should we need to create a strategic plan for the fire department at the end, that will play part of that. That's what we work with the chief there in the city. And then next slide. What are we looking at for timeline right now for this project? So we've had the planning meeting already. We did our stakeholder mapping and our communications plan already last month. SWOT tools developed last month and was started to be released. Listening sessions or meetings have already started as well. So those go July through August. Probably some of them will go into creep into September, which isn't a critical delay. Still keeps us largely probably about 90% on task with those. Kickoff mail we sent out in June. Data collection and current state assessment, we're already starting data collection. I've got quite a bit. I got some documents from Chief Miller today, the ISO survey, the most recent one. So we'll be looking at that. And when I meet with him, I'm going to get a whole bunch more data from the chief response and those statistics and things like that. In September, as we move through looking at the data, we're going to do some benchmarking and best practice review. How does Pine City Fire Department stack up to other fire departments nationally on a best practice and national standard perspective? Because Charlie Smith's way of doing things is not objective, so we stick to how does every fire department expect it to perform across the United States or regionally or within the state? That's what we'll be benchmarking to see where we're at. We've already started the fiscal analysis. That will come starting this month, last month, all the way through November. Operational analysis, working with the chief. And then in December, you'll start seeing shades of the final study results, where we'll start having probably a first draft, and getting into that, closing in on that final and preliminary recommendations. Stakeholder review, we'll keep it draft for a little bit after probably the same round of discussions that we're having right now, closer to the end for feedback into that, so you can see what it's looking like. And then January, February, we'll have the final report, and then an implementation roadmap that will help all of the entities involved with this have a course laid out for you for implementation of any recommendations that you decide to implement as time goes on. It's 10 months. All right. Any questions for me?
Can you go into detail what you meant by spending a lot of time with city staff? I mean, what does that entail? Is it 200 hours, 40 hours?
Oh, with the amount of time with city staff? Well, it'll be the fire chief will be the one, and I had spent time with Marcy already, and I'll have questions for her. But a lot of time with the chief, and I probably could be I would say probably it wouldn't be out of line for me to probably be spending maybe 20 plus hours with the chief, just discussing different things. So that's really the only city staff that I'll be really meeting with, other than council and Marcy. So I would say probably 20 hours pretty close, and the firefighters as well. We'll have at least one large meeting with the firefighters and any other follow-up meetings. So probably, I would say probably hours of time. So shoot, and it might be a little bit more with the chief as time goes on. But just to get that good feel of the fire department, things are. 200 would be a lot.
Well, I only bring it up because when we talked about approving this study, we put a limit of not to exceed 80 hours of staff time.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So
Yep.
I passed that along to him.
If it goes beyond that, then my expectation is that the township should be foot the bill.
Okay.
My other concern with this project is I know there's a lot of history with this process. And you mentioned a board, and my biggest concern is that I would like to see that no council member or no township member become part of that board.
At the, are you talking about at the end?
Yeah.
Counselor? So if you decide to do a board that governs the fire department operations,
So
that's what you're saying?
that is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So with the starting expectation that township members or council members aren't gonna use this as an ability to push their objectives
Right.
to some bad history or something.
And I will only, thank you, Counselor, and I will only give recommendations as to what, afterwards, what a board would look like. That would be up to all of you to decide what that would look like, but there will be some recommendations. Some board members do appoint counselors and township board members to those particular boards that oversee the large members that are related to the entity at all. For instance, I know Champlin Fire Department has an at-large representative that usually is a fire service member, not even from the area, that can put in there. So I think your concerns are extremely valid. And then as it builds out, that'll really be up to the decision makers on what that's going to look like for you. I'll make recommendations, but it really is up to, don't you, it's going to look like. So.
Small, there's a lot of history.
There is a lot of history, and that's important with the listening sessions, just to get, that helps develop context, right, when we're doing the study, and not that we can address that have happened in the past, and hopefully we can come to a place, all of us, where in the end, after the recommendations, that it's a middle ground that not everybody maybe likes, but everybody, when it comes to service delivery and how it all works.
The history piece, yeah, the history piece is something I start on my notes. I'm like, it's important, but it's also important to get all the history on the side, so.
Exactly, Counselor, and that's part of the listening sessions. I spoke with Counselor Hill, it was at least I'm pretty close to an hour.
1 hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah,
That's
or I should say I listened for
Yeah.
2 minutes, so it was very good information, a long, if I was gonna choose it right now in this really small time frame, an oracle of the fire department's operations, for me. Circles.
I did warn him about you.
I told
Since you're very shy, it's gonna be hard to get you out of your shell.
Yeah.
him strap on his seatbelt, we're going for a ride.
But clarification for me, is this study and project with our current contracted fire partners in Pine City? Or is this with, who is entailed in this project?
Who will I be interviewing, or?
For the fire, is the townships that we're currently under contract with? in the
Yes.
cities? Or-
Yes.
So that,
Yes, currently in contract with us, except there's 3 that aren't participating.
thank you.
Yes, Counselor.
Is your recommendations gonna be based off of current standards, or are you gonna take into account the potential OSHA regulations that might be coming down the line?
That is a great question, because that's a huge issue for the fire service Minnesota-wide right now, actually nationwide. There will be recommendations that will not only include what we're doing today, but those potential issues that could evolve in the future, because that could really, it's an opinion, but really hurt a lot of fire departments if those are adopted. So, yes, exactly. And how to deal with those and develop contingencies to deal with those situations. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any further questions from council?
I'm just excited. It feels like we've been talking about this for a long time, so I feel like out of the gate, we started, so that's like going. Mary Poppins says a job begun this afternoon, so.
Well, thank you, Counselor, and I think, you're further ahead than a lot of other fire departments within the state of Minnesota. There's a lot of discussion out there on how do we deal with not only staffing issues, but recruiting and retention, and discussions that you have to take certainly be a model for other areas on the state in the near future. But be like, okay, what's Pine City doing with the fire department? That's all together. So certainly, so you're in a good spot, and it's a good thing that you're in this direction. So I applaud all of you for foresight.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next, let's move on to our department reports. Any questions or anything there that there's for the department report?
I had a question. Friday, I believe is 30 days. Are we on track to get rid of the ladder or?
I was actually gonna prepare to ask the council for an extension for that because I've been contacted by two individuals in the last couple of weeks that said they had expressed interest in purchasing that. If we could put it out for bid. All of our usable equipment has been taken out off of the truck. And I have contacted both of those individuals today. They wanted part of the drive line out of it, and the other one has backed out, so I contacted Jones to see that he can take it up there, and my plan was, so if it's okay with that, we'll bring that up there as early as tomorrow.
What about the drive shaft? Who is Jones want the drive shaft?
No, there's a gentleman that has a logging business that with a drive line, but I'm not gonna get us into the job of removing equipment and doing this and that, so I actually got him in touch with Jones so that he can work directly with them and they'll figure something out there amongst themselves.
So we're looking at possibly scrapping it tomorrow? Okay.
If council's okay with that.
I personally would like to see that as a memo or something, like not just, I mean, it seems a little last minute if you could just, could you at least like write that request perhaps and I don't know, I talked to staff, is it okay and without any
You could make a motion that you can extend, give him his extension. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Are we scrapping it tomorrow or are we extending it for bid?
I don't know, but
I would just stay with the original plan of bringing it up and scrapping it tomorrow.
Then there's no need because it's already within the time.
okay.
Thank you.
All right.
You're able to, excuse me, Mayor. You're able to drive it up there. We don't have to pay a toll fee or anything.
Right.
I didn't know who was driving.
Yeah, but it's still drivable and the road's legal, but.
You just didn't want to get $10 for it and have a $500 record bill on it.
Right, no, we just took the usable air equipment, ladders, boards, fittings, generator, things like that out that we can potentially reuse.
Thank you for the updates. And thank you for the information. and Thank you for everything you too.
All right, any further follow-up or any further questions for the department reports?
I had, one other question for Brock. You still plan on closing the beach?
Yeah. Well, lifeguards done, Sunday's the last day of lifeguards. We're starting. This is simply Monday.
So simply, you can pull the docks in, because that's stuff.
Why did the schedule change? Because you were unable to staff it?
Well, we didn't really have the managers gone. He's on trip. This isn't much different than us closing normally.
No, it's a week early.
That'd be some good news.
I mean, the beach is still open. Right.
That we can broadcast that, okay, no lifeguards are going to be on
Would
staff,
have to.
something like that.
We got signage there, I think, anyway. But
Yeah.
the beach house is not gonna be open. Right?
I think, yeah, that probably needs to be, that's such a well-used park. That's gonna be, unless, and you know, there's a lot of unattended children because of our long history of staffing it, so.
Are we gonna put Santa cans out or bathrooms are gonna be closed. Just be, have it.
We usually close the.
So there won't be any portable toilets there either, is that what you're saying?
I'll probably keep it.
You know what's gonna happen if there's no toilets, right? I don't know, what, you pay it by the month, right, for them things, or do you pay it by the day?
Is there a reason it can't be open without being posted? There's no lifeguard on duty?
You could do that, but you don't have sanitary facilities, where do you think they're gonna go, obviously, one time?
I'm just
I know where the trees are.
saying it's not ideal, like short notice for a big holiday.
I could keep. I think that'd be wise.
I think that'd be really, I really do think.
I also think that going forward, if we're gonna do something like this again before the normal date, it'd be nice to have it as business on my council agenda to make it a little more transparent for people. I do know that I've been getting a lot of calls on what's going on up there. And it is still a park, it is still enjoyed by a lot of the community, so. Going forward, if we do anything like this next year, I'd like to see that on the agenda, not just an update.
I think, aren't the horseshoers, don't they go till 2 or? Yeah, and they, you know, then they'll need some facility.
Yeah. So it's a lot of youth there. And then the officer was speaking of some of the youth. I was just wondering if you had any idea about that until he brought that up, or?
Yeah, I've given them some information, so.
Okay, and were lifeguards on duty then? That's important.
Well. Maybe like the yelling stuff, but not the. Most of the stuff is there.
I think it does identify a pretty crucial vulnerability. I mean, one person leaves and then the entire beach shuts down. I do think we need to train up a person that could step in the event that this happens again, or if that individual decides to stop next year. That doesn't give us a whole lot of time to train up people. So earlier in this year, I talked about having a backup person or right-hand individual for all the departments. I understand that might not be practical for everybody, but I think this is one of those cases where we need to develop some of the people that we have out there so that they can step.
Seasonal. Right.
Be a good conversation for our Monday meetings, maybe. Talk about, kind of do that analysis to what's going on. Because it is a wide use park, and we wanna keep it safe and being able to be used, and it has the nice new bathrooms.
Perfect. Any further questions or comments on the department reports, or should we move on to committee updates? We'll start off with Parks and Rec committee.
Well, we had a Parks and Rec committee meeting. Our agenda wasn't very big, but we had packed house, and everyone was interested in how the Parks and Rec committee was going to decide where a historical marker was going to go. And so there's a lot of conversation, and what was decided is there would be a little mock-up of the historical marker, and then we get together and kind of make sure it's in a visible place, a safe place. And after that discussion, I don't know, I don't think there's. I just remember that, so there was probably.
Soccer fields.
Oh, yeah. The
Soccer field.
Oh, I know, like, how.
Yeah, but there was some discussion about possibly making the soccer fields into an actual park and developing it like a park. I do think that it's gonna be more discussion in the future with Parks and Rec. I do hope to see it as discussion with the council at some point. Seems like that's become another very valuable resource up there and potential for opportunity for development. We also talked about the disc golf and memorandum of understanding that's being drawn up and how that works with the different organizations between us and school and the organization itself. So there's a lot to come in future Parks and Rec meetings, I believe. A lot of exciting stuff though.
Well, I think one of the things, and my youngest granddaughter was part of that soccer. I was blown away by the crowd. If you haven't been up there and seen that on Thursday night, you believe it. Hundreds and hundreds of people and cars parked as far as you can see both ways. So we need to, part of the equation needs to be looking at what we have property around there that possibly could be developed into some kind of a parking lot area. Doesn't have to be blacktop or concrete. It could be crushed concrete or something, some kind of a hard surface, but.
And that is an item that we're
Yeah.
talking, so.
Yeah, I think that needs to be done because it's, the people are all very respectful of each other and there, I didn't see any problems with where people were mad at each other for parking close or whatever. It was all very well done. It's kind of cool. I don't know where all these people would go if we didn't have this park. I really don't.
They went Cambridge and North Branch and they had to leave our town. We didn't have it for.
Well, COVID kind of screwed it up, didn't it? I wasn't on it.
Yeah, it was in the AS, the youth soccer people left for a while and then now we have someone who's starting it up again and very active and good at
Yeah.
running, so, yeah.
It's doing very well, I think.
Perfect. Any further follow-up for Parks and Rec? Great, how about HRA?
We discussed, putting gutters on the building to help mitigate some of the water trouble up at our apartments there. I forget the address, but, and then what was brought back was that would be like putting the cart before the horse. They really think that it was very expensive and they too soon to do that. So we talked a lot about the grant and then we talked some about putting the HRA monies into a local housing trust fund, which is a way to keep the money I don't want to say safer, but maybe more fluid, and it's a recognized custom for HRAs to do it that way. We just discussed that and then kind of discussed how do we start if that's something that HRA wants to do. So the HRA has been trying to get more active and do more projects, and I think that could be a step that could help. I did a little research after that was brought up, and the thing that stands out to me is there's a statistic that says you can leverage $6 for every $1 that your city puts into the HRA with this trust fund because it's so fluid, like people recognize it. So I thought that was an interesting quality, but that we may need to have some more conversation about.
Gives us a little bit more control and.
Yeah.
The money to, if I remember correctly, it would allow
Right.
us to leverage some of the funds for the foundation repairs, of the building being the biggest kind of
So
target to throw something at the wall.
there's a Minnesota local housing trust fund website and a pamphlet that we could look into. We need help from the ordinance committee to perhaps write an ordinance. So we discussed that and gutters and that, I think that's it, because we just really need to get that water problem taken care of.
We had someone quote for gutters. One gentleman quoted us for gutters, one gentleman wouldn't even quote us saying that it's not going to help mitigate any of the issue. So fix your problems first and then look at gutters. That's the recommendation.
So to that point, with that trust, does the city have any financial obligations with that trust? And two, does it make us more, if we have more control, to become more liable for that project and how it's fixed?
It's my understanding that it would kind of take because the HRA is a separate levied amount. They're essentially their own organization, sort of, that operates underneath the city. It would give them more control to choose more things to do with their funds, as far as they could set up their own programming that doesn't necessarily fit into the box of HUD guidelines and things like that now, so you could set up some programming that makes sense for our community.
We hear a lot over the years about how stringent HUD is. Like it's very specific and very stringent, so, everyone has the opportunity to learn. Local housing funding is needed, and so.
So I guess, does that just mean that just their levy goes into that trust, not anything with tax dollars?
Correct.
Okay.
It does have the ability to accept donations and stuff as well as something that's different, because right now their funding source is through taxation. And this allows for private donations and stuff that can be held in trust and used for projects.
That sell point was $6 can come in for every dollar we earn. That's just an average, so. It's kind of exciting, but, SMH. Guiding us through some of those financial decisions.
Yes.
SMR.
So you want to send that back to the ordinance for an ordinance review?
I would love for ordinance to hear, about what they need, what they're looking for, what they need and what's available. And then see what, ordinance comes up with.
Because
That'd be great.
it's a little bit interesting, though, the HRA is a separate entity to enact the local housing trust fund. It would require an ordinance to be passed. And the HRA is not, as far as we can tell, not a unit that could pass an ordinance, so the city council would have to pass that ordinance in that local housing trust fund.
I guess, does that mean they have to give a presentation on council, then the council makes a recommendation, it goes to ordinance, and then ordinance comes up with a recommendation to come back to council?
Could do that either way. Either way, we should see the presentation, but I don't.
I'm
think
just
there's
trying to
a-
understand the process.
Yeah,
is
I don't-
all.
I don't think there's a specific process for it. It's, whatever gets the ball moving, I think. There's no decisions that can be made unless the council, does the ordinance. There's no can be made unless they hear it. So I don't think it matters who hears it first. We could all hear it at the same time if we wanted to have a joint meeting perhaps.
I would really like to hear the information before it goes to ordinance, because sometimes the recommendations we get from committees is just a memo page, it doesn't give the meat of the subject. And this sounds really interesting, so I definitely want to see everything. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing.
We want to plan on having a presentation, or see if they're available for a presentation at our next council meeting.
Or do we want to report the ordinance
Yeah.
or the next ordinance meeting?
Either way works.
This next ordinance meeting, Labor Day.
Oh, well, I take that back then, Kyle.
8th of September?
It's like,
HRE is the 16th of September. Can we quorum the 16th of September, because I've got a bucket load from residents there, management, so I'd like to be there, and I'd like to invite the residents. So I think we should have a meeting at the outside,
The 16th of September.
isn't it?
For time's sake, maybe we should just move on with our agenda and then do our little calendar figure, we'll set a date here, but. We can spend. Now I'm gonna have to get up my schedule.
You want to brief continuations of the next committee dates?
EDA.
EDA was fairly short, financials, there was a few minor updates that we have. We were presented with our budget book, had a small conversation about the budget book. And what else? There was a discussion to potentially look at the bylaws and change meetings to not being monthly. But we'll see where that goes. That was easy.
Planning?
was a continuation from the meeting before. We had a couple conditional use permits and variances that we had to review. They were robust and passionate conversations. I'd like to say that the negativity piece, we were looking at the documents that were submitted for approval of the conditional use permit and the parking variance, and utilizing those criteria as if they're being satisfied or not. There was a lot of conversation from planning commissioners that why can't we just change the variance, make it easier for the people that own the business? It was my understanding that you can't just make a change to a variance, so we asked to have a legal, did I miss anything? So we asked for a legal opinion and review, and that's where that's at. So it's not out of negativity, it is out of, these were the documents that were submitted that council approved for these conditional use permits and variance, and we're just trying to hold the permit holder to what's there. And the parking lot comment, striping, that is an ordinance that we have as a city, that a parking lot is supposed to be striped and maintained in a certain way, and it's not, so it was something that was brought up, but. And we'll be talking about the other conditional use permit because we discovered one, that was incorrect, in multiple ways, Tabitha did, so we'll be talking about that here coming up later in the agenda.
Liquor committee.
Dave and I, it was short and sweet. I was just cruising along there. Having swelling customers and a swelling in sales and profits, so that was nice to hear. You have your Hyde running. What were the other highlights, Laura?
But you can't buy an Hive yet, they're opinion.
Correct. Cannot buy on this.
Yeah. It was good, thank you.
Right, and ordinance review, that was last night. We had a conversation about some fee schedule updates. There was some conversation around the public art policy and licensing agreement. Brief discussion about the truck routes, and we will be bringing back the IPMC and seeing what we can find out. Our community and fits in with code.
It's the IPM, the international.
That's about all I have for ordinance, David, moving most ordinance.
There was a presentation for the trust fund that we tabled pending legal review. So there was a draft ordinance and the trust fund presentation was on, but we voted to table it to make sure that we're doing it the right way.
All right, well, anything else for committee reports? We'll move on to item number 9, our consent items. We discussed it.
Go ahead and make a motion to approve the consent items as presented.
Great, I've got a motion from Gina. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Dave, any further discussion?
I had 2 questions, and it revolved the check registry. On page 4, it just mentions the Pine City Area Chamber of, and then it goes on to Rock Creek Lions donation for the parade. Can you just expand on that a little bit? I'm guessing that we made a donation to the Chamber of Commerce, but.
This is where we were the pass-through, right? This was the pass-through. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the auditors questioned that as well. We were a pass-through.
It just reads kind of funny on the check registry with the short description. The second question I had on there, or something that I'd like to see potentially change as we get into Amazon purchases. And the general info is just Amazon purchase. And it's a very detailed report for everything else with a general overview. It'd be nice to see some better descriptions than just Amazon purchase.
I would have to give you different things than that report.
What do you mean?
I would have to do it because Amazon, we do as one invoice. That's why you only see the one description with all the multiple purchases as compared to if you look at. take, for instance, on the first page, Bellboy Corporation, you can actually see the breakdowns, those are individual invoices. That's why you get to see the descriptions the way it is. So with Amazon, it's a bulk. And you just get that. I can give you an invoice breakdown, but it would have to be at the very end.
And that would be fine. I would like to see a breakdown of that more than just Amazon purchases. I'll get a lot of questions. What our Amazon purchases are, and I can't tell them. Because I don't know.
You can reach out, I can tell you.
I could, but then I would have to reach out every single month and get that report and ask for it every time. If it could just be included in the report and people could just read what those Amazon purchases are, I'd probably stop taking questions then. So,
We may be able to identify patterns and things that we're purchasing through from Amazon, be able to increase our purchasing power to save money.
We can play around with that to see how that would look adding into the detail.
thank you.
Perfect. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent items. Any hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, we'll move on to old business now, 10.1, 10th Street Southwest Street Project.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. It's been a while since I've been before you. Thank you for having me tonight. 10th Street project, earlier this year, I think there was some discussions on the assessments. I got to thinking a couple weeks ago that if the council, we're still going to assess the project and have those payments started in 26, we can get started and get that assessment hearing on the books. So this resolutions before you, one orders the preparation of the final assessment roll. The second one sets the hearing for your September meeting. That gives us 2 weeks to get the notices out, get it in the paper. We'll work with staff on that. After the assessment hearing and the assessments are adopted, and residents have 30 days to prepay, so that gives them into October and still gives a little extra time before the assessments are given to the county, I believe in mid-November, give or take. So there's a little bit of play in the schedule, but not a lot. So if you do intend to assess a portion of the project cost back to the 10th Street residents, I'd recommend adopting those two resolutions. One, the term of the assessments, I had 15 years in there. That's what typically has been used in the past. And the other one, we just need to set the interest, which is typically 1% or so above what your bond is.
So is that what that second resolution is, that we have the 15 years in there and the 6.25%?
Yeah, Lisa calculated the percentage.
Again, we're using the appraiser's number from special benefit analysis, which we did on the 8th and Gulf project versus the policy, because I know there's been discussion about reviewing the policy. Since this project, we had an improvement hearing on your use of what we've done before. We need to finish under that. Council wants to review and come up with different plan assessments. Do that in front of that.
So I'll go ahead to make a motion to for resolution 25-25, using the final resolution with the 15 years and 6.25%.
Okay, you've got a motion by Gina. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Kyle. Any further discussion? This is a resolution, so we'll proceed with a roll call vote. Dan?
Aye.
Gina?
Yes.
Dave?
No,
Kyle?
Aye.
And I also vote yes, that carries. All right, and then we would need someone to make a motion to approve resolution 2025-26.
So
Motion by Dan, do I hear a second?
I'll second Dan's motion.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution, so we'll proceed with a roll call vote. Dan?
aye.
Gina?
Yes.
Dave?
no,
Aye.
Mike will also vote yes, that motion carries. Anything else from us, Greg?
Not on that item.
You're up for the next one now, right?
Yep, next we're moving on to 10.2 on Meadow.
So. Talked about the council authorized the ad bid back in June. We opened bids in mid-July. We had 9 bids, which was quite a few. Again, we talked this spring about giving the contractor flexibility and schedule, how this project has some attraction because there's not a lot of street repair. I think that bore out in the 9 bids we received and some very tight ones. The low one is way down there by himself. We're not to scratch our heads about that. The low bidder is Dressel Contracting out of Chisago City at a bid of $341,996.14. Under my estimate, Dressel was a sub on the 23 mill and overlay project. The project's on 4th and 14th through the swamp, so they've worked in the city before. I've worked on similar projects. No reason not to award it to them. They do pipe work. They can easily handle this. Talk to them and in the next item, their schedule is probably get started in September and get it done sometime in October. The completion date is November, but we are in August already. But it's not going to be a long time frame with work. Once they get in, get the pipe board, make the 2 connections, fix the streets and everything will be done. So I don't anticipate any issues with that completion date having this done this fall. So the council wants to move ahead with this project. I think we got a great bid and a good contractor, so I would recommend you award it to Dressel Contracting in that amount.
I'll make that motion that we award it to Dressel Contracting.
So do we do this in 2 steps or just one? Do we approve the agreement and the award, or do we do it as one?
This would be the award of the contract for the city to enter into a contract with Dressel to do the work. The next item is for us to provide the construction services. Previous staff had always wanted us to just do everything under the same city engineering number contract we have, and then your staff has to figure out where all the projects goes. What we'd like in the master agreement you approved earlier is every standalone project like this, I'll give you a letter proposal saying, here's the scope, here's the fee and schedule for us, here's what we're gonna do. So that can be tracked by staff, that comes on a separate invoice, we can follow this project and these project costs instead of them having to
Yeah, it's much cleaner.
sift that out, so. But to your point, 2 motions, first to award the contract to Dressel, and then if you'd like to, the second one is our inspection, safety, and administration.
Thank you for clearing that up.
So are we gonna have some downtime with the systems up there when we do the hookups? I mean, is there,
Probably an hour or 2.
and what is the plans to notify the residents?
We'll work with Maury, probably give them a day or 2 notice, depending on the contractor's schedule. What I anticipate happening is they're gonna drill most of the pipe through the swamp.
Right.
You know, them trenchless. Then they'll come in with their open cut crew, bring the 2 pipes around, we'll connect one side. I don't know if they'll do the 16 Avenue side, or if they'll do the Fawn Meadow side. That one, we can isolate the plant. That shouldn't impact anybody. It's just the Fawn Meadows piece. Commissioner Hill. So typically on street projects where we're doing water work, we try to give at least a day's notice or 2. This one, since it's pretty controlled, we get the pipe there and give us a day and be ready. We can go door to door, say, all right, water will be down from 8 to noon. We'll have the pipe should be right there. It should be a matter of cutting the pipe, draining it, putting the new valve on, everything back to you.
So not only Lori for notification, but probably also the fire chief, I'm guessing.
But it would be,
Is there a period of time when, you know, I've seen this over the years where for a while there people are getting stains in their clothes and stuff and all mad for no reason at all because they should have known that there's
So-
a problem.
so we'll have, so it'll be in phases. So they'll get the pipe there, we'll make the connection. It won't open up the new pipe yet until
Okay.
flush that out.
Good.
And the contract will work with mooring, we flush it one way or the other, both ways, how that's gonna work. We're gonna have a new hydrant on each end that can get flushed out of. So you're right, the thought is, you know, the water's gonna move different in the system
Yeah.
now it's moved. So we'll work with mooring on that, and then maybe this rolls into his hydrant flushing in the fall too, and how this works, so.
Well, I'd like to see more notice than just a day or 2. I'd like to see a week to a month.
If we can nail that date down, we will. It's a little tricky on the contractor schedule.
Well, I don't even know if we have to nail it down. I think if we just notifications through the media, this is gonna happen during this period of time between then and then. if you got some really fine linens, you better wash them now. And, you know, why can't we do that? I don't see any reason. why we-
Similar to like a hydrant flushing,
Yeah.
it's the water, that's good idea.
I think it's, we need to give them all, because even then we're gonna have problems. It doesn't matter. It's always happens.
I'll second this motion for, I do have a couple of discussion points. One, first of all, in your professional opinion, why is this low bid so much lower than the rest of the bids? That's concerning to me.
It's only
50,000.
6,000 under number 2, 341 to 347.
Yeah, it's
You
pretty
know,
close.
foresee that we're gonna run into a bunch of overruns or anything. Perfect.
I think it's a matter of, the biggest piece of this is the 1280 plan. If one contractor puts $2 or $2 less
Gotcha.
on a couple thousand feet of pipe,
Plus, but isn't what happens sometimes the bigger companies bid it high and then they're planning on subbing it out to the other company anyways, I mean.
and part of it is
Yeah.
workload, it's getting.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're seeing here. It's this is the practice project for the fall. It's not very big.
Will there be, we were just talking about soccer up there, and the amount of people on Thursday. They should be far enough out where it's not gonna interfere with any traffic or
Yeah.
anything like that, right?
And if they have equipment, they can probably park them around the state too.
Okay. And just to clarify too, this water main loop is to loop the system together for the north end. This is not specifically for.
The entire dead end that starts at Airport Road goes all the way up
Okay.
to the north end of town, which is what they came to the courthouse. So now you will have a closed system both on the east side and the west side.
Okay, but just to clarify that.
Does it include the new senior living up there too? Yeah. All right.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to accept, Drexel contract in bid. Do we need to do a roll call vote on this, or is this just be,
You can just, yeah, just,
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, and we're looking for another,
Approval of our contract, if you want us to do the field work on this in the amount of $29,000.
I will make that motion.
Kyle,
I'll second for conversation, just at the end of that, switch us to city of Pine City, says city. of Webb.
Kind of things come.
Well, let's leave this.
Thank you.
Interesting reading.
all right, and with those modifications, got motion. Discussion from council. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. And just a quick update, I think the mill and overlay is going to start next week. Middle of the week, so just be aware that we smacked it.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great. Right, next we will move on to, new business. Item number 11.1, request for council action, Minnesota paid family and medical leave contribution.
do you want me to speak on this? Okay, this is something that's gonna become mandatory beginning of January of 2026. So, it's gonna be a wage, based on wage premium 0.88%. The cost can be shared between the employee and the employer. We're looking to, as we're in budget right now, we're looking to determine how council would like to proceed with this. There's 3 options presented. One would be to have the city, one is to split 50-50 between the city and the employee. Second option, city pay the full premium. And the third option is to split 75% city, 25% employee. We're bringing this before council, asking for council to approve the minimum requirement by the employer, which is the 50%.
And there's been a lot of like, in the member link groups with LMC, like a lot of the HR and cities have come together and like said what they're doing, and I'm gonna say 90% 50 split.
I read that. How does this, and what I did look for when I was trying to find out more about this was, what are we gonna does this affect the union contracts? I guess that's where I'm going.
This is separate from them because it's coming from the state.
But I mean, as far as what we do, I mean, we have to treat all employees the same. Does it have to be part of the union contract? Does it not?
It has been.
Yes, and yes, it's been both of the contracts. They both brought it up.
They brought it.
So we will have to negotiate it too, but
Right, that's what I was wondering.
We can always go up, right? At any point. If we wanted to, but you have to start somewhere, and the 50/50 is the base minimum.
Yeah.
I would recommend that we start, or my motion would be that we start with the 50/50.
I'll second that.
Great, got a motion from Kyle, second from Gina to go with 50/50. Any further discussion?
I would. The city pick up 100% of that. I don't know if there's a way that we can plug it in and look at it, so what kind of effect it would be 100 versus right there.
I know that currently on budget, we are doing it 100% because we can always come down. So the current percent in our budget right now.
Right, we do have a motion second on the floor for the 50/50 coverage. Does this need to be, this is not a resolution, so this is just an at-large vote. All those in favor of the 50/50 coverage, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, next up, we will move on to 11.3, resolution 2025-27, accepting donations from the Pine City Smoke Eaters.
Mayor, I have to abstain from voting and discussion.
Okay.
As the resolution explains, the smoke eaters received some grant funds and purchased, different items listed on the resolution. And they're looking to donate that to the fire department of Pine City. And saying also that this stays within the department. So, right now we're asking for council to acknowledge this gift and accept it.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the smoke meters donation and accept resolution 2025-27.
I'll second it.
All right, I've got a motion from Gina and second Dave.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Questions if they have.
He's just.
Stand up and explain.
Cover that fairly well then?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
This is resolution, so we'll excuse the roll call. Dan, Gina,
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
And I will also vote yes, that motion carries.
Thank you for everything that you guys do.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank you.
I got a copy of that, when it's signed.
Correct, yes. We'll get that to you. And also, I would like to say great job on the radio today.
Oh.
He was our stand-in, Fire and Life speaker on the radio.
Good job, guys.
All right, next up, we will move on to 11.4, schedule budget workshop in August.
Should we look at your calendars? Do we have some options?
You like Fridays, right?
I'm gone until the 25th, so.
You're gone till the 25th. So that leaves it.
Narrows it down
Tuesday,
slightly.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Did you say 25th or 21? 21, right?
So that leaves 26th, 27th, and 28th.
When do you get back?
I am back technically on the 21st, but I don't know if I'll have any complications with flights.
Gotcha.
It's a little bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at that on the calendar.
I have PDA and planning on the 27th. So, oops, so today's a little bit tight for me unless it was between 8:30 and 5 p.m. Other than that, the 26th I have wide open, 28th and 29th I have.
That's 8:30, so.
Don't we have AFSCME on the 28th?
28th is.
28th is that.
22nd.
Teamsters.
Oh, Teamsters.
Yes, I'm sorry. Sorry. I actually love having two meetings in a month, so they both.
Would you
I mean,
want?
I don't love having two meetings in a row, but.
AFSCME, I don't think it's wise to even schedule around that, because that could be anywhere from an hour to 4. I mean, we just don't know how to even schedule that. Oh, unless. Oh, no, that'd be before we're still at work.
We're talking evening time anyway, right?
Yeah, we would do an evening.
It's the 27th of gone day.
So you're saying we can't on the 28th because of AFSCME? So
that
that
starts-
really leaves, and Kent has two meetings on the 27th, and that leaves the 26th, or stacking up Kent's meetings. Or 3 meetings in one day, I don't know, that's silly.
And the 29th is, Friday, Labor Day weekend, so yeah, it would almost either have to be. Like that. So we did it during the day. So.
I guess, just really good. Right now, the schedules, if you guys want to do it the 2 weeks before, at any point, if I can't be there, we can certainly have a meeting. I don't know that it'll be the only workshop meeting,
Oh,
but, I just, if it works better for your schedule, then plan it that way.
I'm empty on the 26th right now.
26th works.
I'll do the 26th.
Want to do that at 5?
Here or where?
This is already booked.
It's kind of
Six.
like, we can do it at
5:30. So I'm going to zone here.
It's good time. It's all bad.
Okay, you said the 26th, 5:30? Is that what you agreed upon?
Yeah, that's fine.
26, 5:30.
Yeah, feels like.
They've said let's go over.
Pizza?
Oh, I'll bring snacks for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Right, moving on here, where we got the planning, community development and engineering business. 12.1, conditional use.
So for the past 2 planning commission meetings, we've gone over CUPs and sub-variances. All the way back to 2021, in that time, we discovered that there was a CUP that was incorrectly labeled. I did reach out to the actual property owner. She was aware of the situation. She knew what happened. She knew what was going on. She agreed to us amending it. I did check with the county to make sure to find out if it was recorded. Otherwise, there's other things that needed to happen. It was not recorded, and amend the CUP and get it recorded with the name change and then a first lady number change. Just clerical errors.
She's required to do that, or do we have to? We don't have to.
We have to.
We have to record.
Because I'm assuming her escrow fees, well, we don't have her escrow fees anymore and they would have been returned to her. It means it's a clerical error. I don't feel comfortable in charging her. And a city.
So there's that 2022-0907-26.
Yes.
So I'll go ahead and make that motion to approve resolution 2022-0907-26.
There's 3.
They're all the same line.
Yeah, it's.
We vote on
Okay, so it's the amended, yeah.
Yeah, I gave you the original and then I showed the amended.
Okay, so you don't have to vote 3 times.
No.
Jesus, we're really getting redundant here.
Right, okay, we've got a motion from Gina to approve the amended resolution. Do I hear a second? A second from Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution, so we'll call a vote. Dan?
Aye.
Gina?
Aye.
Dave?
Yes.
And Kyle?
Aye.
And I will also vote yes, that motion carries.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. We will 13, mayor's report. I was absent last week, so I'm just gonna stick a little one in there really quick. Thank you for everybody that was at National Night Out last night. It was super fun. And also thank you to all city staff and anybody that's kind of more community wide that was involved in my fair last week. It takes so many people to put on that event, and as a fair board member, I can say we definitely appreciate everybody's support. So thank you. That, did anybody have any council concerns?
I guess one council concern that pops in mind is we keep hearing about CUPs and working with businesses. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to put maybe a timeline in place for the CUPs to allow a grace period, but also have measurable goals that if they're not meeting expectations, then it goes into effect hard. But also give them a grace period, but I don't want to just have it go forever kind of thing. Otherwise, I think that's bad policy.
Because we should be reviewing our CUPs every year. And then, yeah, so is that something that we think should be chat about it planning as far as building a procedure and then back to.
What was Tabitha saying? What's your opinion? How often should we review these?
I still believe they should still be yearly.
Okay.
As I stated, I don't know if they were prior to me, but finding this clerical error kind of made me say that they weren't reviewed. A grace period per developer would be fantastic, but it's still something we should review and assist in trying to help them.
Do you check with the county and see if these things have been registered, or do you bother with that?
The ones that I have done since I've been here have been recorded.
So you check to make sure they've all been recorded, that you do?
I did not check all of the ones that we reviewed. I did check the one that had an error. The other ones I did not check.
But the new ones that you're doing now, is that?
Yes, those are recorded.
So that's your policy?
Yes, that is
Well,
part of the
that's
state.
I don't ever remember reviewing CUPs before we had started reviewing CUPs, to be honest. Yeah, it would just be nice to have a process for a little bit of a grace period to work with them. But also have measurable goals that if they're not meeting the measurable goals, we're not following. So
Just to build up what you're saying is that CUPs are important and to work with developers, but CUPs are also what developers bring to us to approve to conditions for the neighborhood, how it's going to affect the taxpayers that live in the neighborhoods that these are happening. So I agree that we need some measurables and some ways. Is that a developer or someone saying, I'm agreeing to these terms, this is what I brought forward, and this is you telling me what I need to do. That needs to be done. I agree with grace periods, but get into years and years of things, it's a little silly. So yeah, I think we need to come up with an addition to the CUP of what the enforcement's gonna be and how it looks. Because it's not just about the developer, it's about the taxpayer too.
Just to clarify, I'm not looking for years period. I'm thinking like 60-day grace period kind of thing. Or if they're not meeting the measurements at 30 days, then we go in hard. But when it starts a CUP, maybe there's a grace period there. Maybe for reviewing CUPs and getting in compliance, there's a grace period there. Going forward though, I mean, there's got to be a hard line in the sand saying that we're not going to budge from this. I think it is kind of our fault for not reviewing those yearly.
So the latest I've been to.
A lot of other people do, I think so.